And welcome to another edition of the Q&A question of the week. The purpose of this Q&A is to empower all with resources, strategies, skills, tips, and tricks to help students succeed, parents succeed, and educators to succeed. Each week there will be a question from you, the viewer, and what we'll do, we'll try our best to address those questions for you the best we can. If you want to submit a question, it's really simple. tinyurl.com/eduologyq. If you have an answer to this question, or if you have some strategies and some tips that you would like to submit and help out, then please in the comment section below, go ahead and add them. And let's do this thing together. It still takes a village. So let's do this together. All right, so let's get started. This week's question comes from Choctaw, Oklahoma. All right. So we were reading a text and a sad part came up. The students started laughing about it. I was shocked at their response, so I scolded them about not taking the moment seriously. After reflecting on it, I thought I could have done better. What's your take on it? Short answer, if you are reflecting on it and you think you could have done it differently, then yes, you probably did approach it wrong and you probably should have approached it differently. A few things I would like for you to consider. Point one, what was the context of the text? What was it about? Perhaps could their experiences based upon that context trigger something else where it brought about the laughter, or perhaps where it did rub you the wrong way? For me, this is amazing. So there was this one time I had an opportunity to teach some of these college students. And we're inside of this college class, and I'm the guest speaker, and I'm excited, and they're excited because they haven't seen someone like Doughty before teaching them. So they were giving it to me, and the energy was there, and I was all about it. So we discussed, who are bad kids? What do these bad kids look like, sound like, feel like inside of a classroom? So each one was sharing out what they see from their lens and what bad kids are and how bad kids are, and so. They all started to talk about a specific type of characteristic of a bad kid. And I just kind of smiled and I listened to them. I gave everybody a chance to voice their ideas and their opinions of what a bad kid looks like inside of a typical class. And lots of joy, lots of laughter, lots of everything. So then I shared with them this story. There was this one story that talks about this parent. And this parent was inside of a subway car. And the parent was just sitting there very similar to this. And the parent had two kids, and the two kids were running up and down the cart and going through the little poles and laughing and playing tag and hitting and running, and they were running wild. And of course, while they were running, there were other people looking at them like, what are they doing? I can't believe that they're running, and they need to sit down somewhere, how people are. And so the parent was just kind of just sitting there, kind of like this. In the midst of him sitting there, more mumbles and more things started to happen. These kids are screaming in joy. You can tell they're having a good time playing tag or running and tagging each other inside of this train cart. Two other adults were upset. And then finally the mumbles started to get a little louder and got a little louder and got a little louder. Finally, one person said, "Hey, sir, you need to get your kids." Kind of like in that exact same way. "Hey, sir, you need to get your kids." And the guy looked and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Why are your kids acting bad? You need to blah, 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 blah." And you could tell there's something wrong. So he pauses and he looks at those two adults and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Their mother just died and I don't know how I'm going to tell them." Paradigm shift. So my first thing is, I wonder what was the context like. I wonder inside of this, was it a moment where they were laughing because there was a specific type of a paradigm that could have been shifted in their experience? Perhaps that triggered something else. Point number two, perhaps it triggered where it was a defensive mechanism. We all have seen people use laughter as a defensive mechanism. We know that it's a guard against some anxiety that's built in. It's a guard against some traumatic event that they've experienced or have personally seen on TV, or something where it's triggered for them to say, and they just start laughing. Perhaps they saw a spoof of it online that triggered something else. Being able to joke about some of these things requires somewhat healing. And there are people who actually laugh and joke about things like this. For an example, there was this one person who lost a limb. And at the very beginning, he was really, really upset because he had lost his limb. He was like, life is over and so forth. But with some time, with some encouragement, with some counseling, with some healing, he became a jokester about it, and he would often make jokes about that loss of a limb and so forth. So point number 2, I wonder, why did they laugh? I wonder, was it a defensive mechanism in addition to the context of it? Point 3, instead of scolding them like you suggested, I wonder what would have happened had you asked some questions throughout that text. So yes, the text was very serious and heavy for you, but perhaps they didn't see that from your perspective. Perhaps you guys just read the text, and then when it came to the uncomfortable part, to them it was funny to them and they laugh. But I wonder what would have happened if you would have tried some questioning techniques. Questioning techniques, they actively involve students in the lesson. They increase motivation or interest in that particular topic. They develop critical thinking skills. It gives them a chance to do some independent learning and reflection and seeing things from a different lens. And then it nurtures their insights. It nurtures them to want to ask more questions. So I wonder if you would have approached it with more of an open and closed dialogue versus just reading the text. I don't know. Based on this question, I'm not, we don't have a lot of the background to it, but I do wonder, if you did develop it with an open question. Hey guys, so what do you guys think about this text in this context of blah, 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 blah? Why do you believe this? Blah, 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 blah. I wonder if the open close would have helped in that. Then I wonder if you could have probed them with some probing questions. Hey guys, so I see that we're laughing at this. What part of this story or what part of this text becomes comical? Maybe I don't see it from a perspective. Gaining that clarification to ensure that you have the whole story and that you can understand the story, and then drawing the information out of them through probing questions perhaps could have made the dialogue even better, even richer. The third thing, I wonder if you could have done it with a leading question and lead the witness, so to say. Since they are some jokesters and some laughing, I wonder if you could have said, you know what, I wonder how bad is this text? And then they could have said, well, it's really bad. And then they could explain to you why it's bad. Or the vice versa of that. I wonder why this text is so bad. And why would they have this in this book? Or why would I select this? And then you would have 1 or 2 students who say, who said it's bad? It's not bad to me. It's actually good because blah, 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 blah. And then that could have brought forth a discussion. Instead of just jumping down their throat, saying that, it's wrong for them to be laughing at this serious text, I wonder if you could have approached it differently to find the root of the laughter. Because it could be, these are students. It could have been something really silly. Where those days that the kids are just laughing at anything, and no matter what you do, they all bust out into laughter. We've all been there as well, where they just have the giggles, and once when you have a case of the giggles, no matter what you do, the kids are just laughing. So I wonder if that could have been a part of it as well. So let's wrap this thing up, shall we? Yes, chances are you probably could have handled it differently, especially if you're reflecting upon it yourself. And I appreciate you taking that time to actually reflect upon it and say, could I have done that differently? The 3 things I would suggest, the first thing was the context. try to identify the context of that situation. The second thing, try to find out why did they laugh. Was it a defensive mechanism, or was it something else? Was it something that's silly and goofy, or was it something more serious? And then the third thing, instead of scolding them, perhaps trying some questioning techniques to pull out the information and getting a better understanding of why they were laughing. So I appreciate you asking that question. Let's wrap this thing up, shall we? Thank you for asking the question. Let's keep this conversation going. What are some things that you've done as a teacher, or you as a parent, or you as an administrator, when you see people laughing? How do you address it? If you have some advice, some strategies, make sure you post them in the comment section below. I really, really appreciate you for that. Tune into next week's Q&A. Next week's Q&A is going to be pretty cool as well. Thank you for watching. For those who are commenting, thank you for commenting below. Truly appreciate it. As always, it still takes a village. See you next week.